Enid Blyton has been claimed as racist and homophobic. Picasso believed in treating women like doormats. Pablo Neruda has raped his Sri Lankan Tamil housekeeper. Michael Jackson has allegedly abused children. Albert Einstein was xenophobic. J.K. Rowling has made transphobic comments on her Twitter. It is never easy when we find out our favorite artists and creators have done or said some wrong things. We feel devastated and utterly betrayed, and we tend to look at their art with new eyes. Creative geniuses who are morally wrong get the easy way out of their allegations because people have strong connections with their art. Crimes are in most cases overlooked, perhaps not even taken seriously because of the contributions the artists have made. Calls are made to separate the art from the artist, but when we do, are we passive accomplices to injustice? The idea of separating art from the artist emerged in the early 20th century, when science and rationale ruled thinking. A school of thought called New Criticism surfaced as a response to elevate the study of literature to a science to make it more credible.
If the poem's score for perfection is plotted on the horizontal of a graph, and its importance is plotted on the vertical, then calculating the total area of the poem yields the measure of its greatness.
In order to do so, the idea that a work of art must stand on its own was held fast by new critiques. By this idea, people had to quit understanding the mind of the creator, his intention, his motive, and message behind the work. Good art was one that could transcend time and place and speak to anyone. This then became the standard of teaching and learning in schools, whereby how the artist relates to his work is discounted. But art is never created in a vacuum or in isolation. The creator is inspired by his life, the people he meets, the places he's in, the time he's alive. Wrong actions of artists must be held accountable, and testimonies not dismissed in disbelief. Is the solution then to boycott their work, erase them from our histories? Perhaps the answer lies in Roland Barthes' famous essay of 1967 titled The Death of the Author. He writes that in primitive societies, a narrative was undertaken by a mediator or speaker, and although his oration or performance was admired, he wasn't put on a pedestal. The author god then is a product of modernity, where the emphasis is on the individual. Barthes argues that a work is never original. An author is constantly borrowing from pre-existing plots, stories, and cultures, which means there are so many dimensions and meanings to the final piece of art. But he noticed that the explanation of the work is always sought in the man who's produced it, as if through the more or less transparent allegory of fiction. He claims that the author doesn't create a text, the reader does. Meaning, every time the reader encounters a text or someone listens to a song, they interpret it, feel it, emote it, and make it their own, in a way the artist has no control over. So once the art is put out into the world, it takes many forms and lives. Anonymous works like that of Atticus and Flozo Fly frustrates most people because they can't get behind the mind of the person who created it. Despite that, their art lives on and has amassed a strong following. As Barthes would have said, the author is dead. I would only add perhaps that man never could hold a candle to art.